Senators will soon be voting on antitrust laws that will affect their stock investment portfolios, should them stocks go down or anything. Luckily, we all know that senators always put we, the public, ahead of their own financial interests. That's why they got into politics. Oh. Hello there, you 4.5 million awakening wonders. How lovely it is that you've joined us to talk about the news. Sorry about the label still being in this cardigan. I ain't decided whether or not to keep it yet. It's a simple truth. Tell me in the comments below whether I should keep hold of it. If you're in the UK between January and May, come see me live, particularly February. I'll be at Hammersmith, Apollo. You can come see me live, Margate, all sorts of places. There's a link in the description with details, and hopefully by then we'll be living in a world where finally big tech has been properly financially regulated, because senators are voting now on an antitrust bill that will finally get big tech under control. I mean, all right, some of those same senators are invested in those big tech companies, but there's nothing to suggest that they'll put their own financial interests ahead of what's best for the country. Let's just see what's in the paper today. What? Now, when it comes to the issue of control and big tech, there are kind of two prongs. One, we want big tech to be controlled. We want to know when they're stealing our information and giving it to the government or giving it to advertisers or whatever they do. That we want controlled. But what we don't want is them controlling us, censoring our free speech, preventing us from having open communication. In the past, we've made mistakes by conflating those two ideas. Many of you pointed out around the Facebook whistleblower, remember, that the agenda of that whistleblower, a lot of you said, was in alignment with government policy, and I'm certainly sympathetic to your point of view. Here, what we're talking about, I think, is regulation of big tech, so as them lot have to rein it in a little bit with the old spying and espionage and skullduggery and stuff. But the big problem is, of course, that many of the people that will be voting on that bill make loads of bloody money from big tech doing exactly what they do, harvesting data, selling that data. Let's see how this is going to go down. New unredacted documents. It's weird, isn't it? We live in a world where if something's unredacted, you're grateful for it. Some documents have been released. Has it all been scribbled out, all the good stuff? No, you can actually read it. Bloody hell. Like in the old days when porn used to have stars over the boobies that I didn't look at even then. New unredacted documents were released recently from a state attorney's general lawsuit claiming that Google and Facebook colluded to divvy up the digital ad market, with Google allegedly giving Facebook special advantages. Oh, Bagsy front seat. Oh, Bagsy the front seat. These are people's lives that Facebook and Google are treating like they're dividing up playing cards and bubble gums. With Google allegedly giving Facebook special advantages when using its ad platform for a secret agreement nicknamed Jedi Blue. You little nerds. Hey, why do we call it Jedi Blue? Like the blue lightsabers of Luke Skywalker. The documents also allege that Google pitched tech giants Apple, Facebook and Microsoft on joining efforts to stall proposed data privacy protection for children and teens. It's so nice to see giant corporations coming together as one to invade on the privacy of children and teens. I want to buy the world a Coke and spy on little teens. Join in, everyone, hold hands. I want to steal children's data and intrude in their dreams. As the House and Senate consider sweeping new legislation aimed at reining in the power of big tech, senators may soon vote on laws that could enable the regulatory breakup of companies in which they're invested. Currently, 18 senators or their households own stock in the tech companies nicknamed Fangam. Ugh. Would you like some of my Fangam? I don't think so. Have you watched it? Hardly ever. Fangam for Facebook, Apple, Netflix, Google, parent company Alphabet, Amazon and Microsoft, valued at a minimum of 9.9 million and a maximum of 24.6 million, according to a sludge review of financial disclosures. The assets are reported to the Senate Office of Public Records as being held individually by a spouse in a joint trust or for a dependent child. I like old dependent child. Dependent child's one of my most favourite things. That wasn't my stocks and shares, that's old dependent child. Daddy, can you buy me some Fangams? Don't be disgusting. No, Fangams, that's shares in Facebook and Google. Oh, yeah, no, you can have them. Like, the word dependent child, I think of a child that actually needs constant looking after. And if that's the state that you're in, you shouldn't be dabbling in the stock market. And their values are only disclosed as broad ranges, making a more precise tally impossible. They make it impossible even to observe what's going on, probably because there's nothing to worry about. 3 senators with stock holdings in big tech are members of the Judiciary Subcommittee on Privacy, Technology and the Law. Oh man. Right, come on, we've got to get a subcommittee together. Who should do it? Well, I'm very interested in privacy and the law because of all my fan gams. Well, you can come on in. And I too stand to earn a small fortune from my own fan gams. You can come in. I love fan gams. So does my dependent child. Well, all of you guys better help us regulate what these fan gams are up to. Democrat John Ossoff, he's got $5 million worth of Apple. Then there's Democrat Sheldon Whitehouse. He got a total of 5.5 million held with his spouse in the Fangam group, the dirty pair. And then there's Republican John Kennedy with up to 15 grand, which seems like small fry, doesn't it, compared, held in Microsoft for a dependent. Don't worry, dependent child. When Bill Gates' ship finally comes in, your Fangams are gonna go through the roof. Give me those, Daddy. Hey, you're supposed to be dependent. Oh, that did hurt my wrist a bit when I snatched that money. 8 other senators whose households own shares in big tech are members of the Committee on Commerce, Science and Transportation Subcommittee on Communications, Media and Broadband, which has jurisdiction over the internet. They're obviously only going on these committees because they've got a vested interest. Don't bother having the committee if everyone on the committee has got a vested interest. Senators appear to be most heavily invested in Apple of all the big tech companies, with 14 senators holding a combined up to $14 million worth of stock, followed by Microsoft with 12 senators owning a combined up to $4 million in their households' portfolios. 10 senators are invested in Amazon stock with a combined investment of up to $3 million, and 8 are invested in Google with a combined maximum value of $2 million. 5 senators own stock in Facebook worth a combined up to $845,000, and the 2 who own Netflix stock count a combined up to $600,000 held in the video platform. Slightly over half of senators invested in big tech are Republicans at 10 members, but Democrats hold the vast majority of the dollar amount in Fangam with a minimum of $7.7 million and a maximum of $20.4 million held, about 80% of the Senate-wide minimum and maximum totals. All right, so the Democrats own more of it, but more Republicans are into it. So, as usual, it's a sort of little corruption battle depending on what particular thing you're into. Over the past couple of months, senators have introduced bills that would target big tech companies' power to squash competitors and rig lucrative digital ad markets. In June, members of the House Judiciary Committee introduced and narrowly passed out of committee a package of 6 antitrust bills addressing the market power of Amazon, Apple, Facebook and Google, including measures to bar the platforms from favouring their own products. With influential tech industry lobbying groups mobilised in a full court press against the package, the most contentious of the measures, the Ending Platform Monopolies Act, passed the committee by a vote of 21 to 20, with several committee members ducking the ultimate vote. That's where they're like, I can't really vote on this because I actually stand to earn quite a lot of money from those stocks. Yeah, I'm being lobbied quite hard, and I've got a dependent child to think of. Don't you dare vote against my interests. My wrist. When Facebook whistleblower Frances Hogan testified to a Senate subcommittee, she addressed questions from 2 shareholders in the company, Senators John Hickenlooper and Jerry Moran. The pair did not disclose their stakes. I remember I made a bit of a mistake. I thought those Facebook hearings might be bad for Facebook, but now we know that the senators that were asking the questions actually own bits of Facebook. They're invested in Facebook. They don't want nothing bad to happen to Facebook. That means there was another agenda at play. What was that other agenda? Who will be affected by any regulation introduced? It won't be stuff that prevents Facebook making money or affects Facebook's stock prices, because overwhelmingly Congress and the Senate, to a significant degree, are invested, literally financially invested in the success of those companies, as well as more abstract ways, in the future they will be, all sorts of jobs and all that kind of stuff. Literally, their money's invested. So any regulation that is likely to be brought about will affect the users of Facebook. That's you and me. It will be about curtailing and controlling and limiting freedom of speech. So of course, the whole thing, you could say that it was sort of like a show, a spectacle, because it was never going to lead to restricting, controlling, limiting, reducing Facebook's power and share prices, which is the metric that matters. So it was only ever going to be about censorship. The 2 senators are not the only ones on Capitol Hill invested in Facebook. As lawmakers consider changes to legal protections for tech platforms and potentially resolve regulatory issues in ways favourable for giants like Facebook, the households of at least 5 senators and 24 representatives hold Facebook stock, totalling a minimum value of $2.3 million and a maximum value of over $8.4 million. You just shouldn't have that, should you? You shouldn't own stocks in Facebook if your job involves regulating Facebook. I know that some people that know more about politics than I do and are sort of closer to it go, yeah, but that's just the reality. These are business people that have come through business. Well, that shows you that it's all bullshit. They shouldn't be. It should be, you want like decent, honest people like, oh, I've never really cared that much about making money. I'm mostly concerned about civic duty and I care about people, ordinary people. If you care about stocks and shares and all that stuff, go do that stuff. Members of Congress are only required to report their investments in broad ranges. So it's not possible to know with precision how much their shares are worth. Well, they're going to be worth more now because they're passing favourable regulations. It's going to boost it. Members of Congress frequently hold investments in stocks and securities in companies whose industries they oversee through their committee assignments. One of the things we've got to do here is make sure these committees that oversee and regulate a particular industry are vested in that industry. That way they really care. But mightn't that negatively affect their objectivity? Hey, you're not on the committee for telling me what to do. You don't earn any money out of me. Don't you see how this works? While many Americans support ethics regulations to stop elected officials from transacting in stocks while they are privy to a variety of non-public information, Congress has not adopted conflict of interest rules. Conflict of interest. Whose interests is it again? Well, your interest. And would that also affect dependent child? You better vote the right way, Daddy. Yes, it would. It would affect you and dependent child. I don't know. I'm struggling. I don't think we should do that. You better not, Daddy. I'll punch you so hard with the end of my wrists. Congress has not adopted a conflict of interest rules, and no member of Congress has ever been criminally charged under the insider trading prohibitions passed in the 2012 Stock Act. Oh, what a successful Stock Act that was. Now, finally, we've got an act that does nothing. It'll be almost as if the act weren't even there. Speaker Nancy Pelosi, who you love, and her spouse, investor Paul Pelosi, great guy, reported selling all of their Facebook investments over the course of last year in their 2020 annual disclosure, earning capital gains of between 100 grand and $1 million on the stock. It's a broad idea. I can't tell you exactly how much I earn from Facebook while I'm posing as a person in government. I may have earned 100 grand. I may have earned $1 million. It's all the same to me. La. In June, Paul Pelosi exercised a call option and purchased shares of Google parent company Alphabet worth up to $5 million. So there you go. Reassurance where reassurance needed that your friends there in Congress and the Senate have got your back when it comes to big tech, that any regulation that's passed will certainly have your best interests in mind, that democracy is working great, whether you're a Republican or a Democrat. There's so much to be enthusiastic about in today's political world. Does anybody do sarcasm quite like the English? If you know, you can tell me in the comments. Let me know what you think of this video. Let me know how you feel. Do you think that insider trading should be a crime? Do you think, wouldn't it be crazy, have a law when they're not allowed to be lobbied, they're not allowed to own stocks and shares, and you don't have people on committees that have a vested interest in what that committee is discussing? I mean, it's just so bloody obvious. This is children's politics. This isn't complicated. We can do this. We can do this in 25 minutes. If you enjoyed this video, have a look at the original appearance of Dependent Child. And if you need to meditate now to connect with something more deep and meaningful, sign up to my Awakening side channel where we talk about spirituality all the time if this politics gets a bit too much for you. Also, sign up to my mailing list. I can tell you what I'm thinking, what I'm reading, what I'm doing, where I'm going. I'll tell you about my tour from January to May. I'm appearing all over the UK. Most importantly of all, though, stay free.